and welcome back to the Tabletop Discussion. It's going to be a bit of an interesting episode because we've already done an episode exactly identical to this yesterday, as part of recording anyway. As of recording, we are recording this and also streaming this one day after the first part. This is part 2 of Homebrew in Tabletop Roleplay Games. Obviously, in our system, we have what's known as unique attributes, which are basically the strongest form of homebrew probably felt in the game. But Alex and Sam, welcome.
Ew.
Ooh.
Pew, pew, pew. It's me shooting at this discussion.
Why?
I don't know. I just wanted some action. This is my homebrew technique of adding something to the conversation.
Well, Alex,
that's your unique attribute. Making random stuff up to try and be funny.
I genuinely thought you were going to make a reference. True. I thought you were genuinely going to make a reference to.
I was going to make a reference to Warhead or something. I could do, but
I thought you were going to make a reference
at the time.
To Critical Role, and I thought you were going to be a complete genius about it. But clearly, it was it's all but a fool's whim.
I mean, well, we did mention Critical Role, so we should get all of their fans on board with us now because we did a reference. But as you all know from listening to this, I'm not very smart, so I don't think of these things. I just thought, pew pew, gun goes pew pew, make noise.
You played a gun that went pew pew, but we're not going to talk about them because they're not homebrew. What we're going to talk about are the characters that were. For those of you who didn't watch the previous episode, or had watched the previous episode but would like a nice reminder, homebrew is usually when people make stuff up. Usually they make or build new mechanics for a game or a campaign to be able to be played within the system that is not made, that is, quote, official to the original mechanics of the official game creators and designers. So, without any further ado, let's talk about this. At the end of the last episode, we pretty much talked about the fact that because this game is constantly ever changing and because it is constantly in beta, there is a good chance that something that becomes homebrew eventually changes to becoming the actual norm of the game's mechanics. So, for instance, Bartholomew, Juice playing as Bartholomew being a bone thorpial, and then we joke about, a skeleton race, where they're just purely skeletons, and then just suddenly it's now from homebrew to actual race that you can play in the game. The same thing with Kane jokingly playing as a homebrew version of Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Time Children coming from it, where you can entirely change situations due to manipulating certain aspects of time. So yeah, things like that can sometimes happen. Not all the time, but sometimes they can happen. Now that that's out of the way, let's get down to the business. You two have both played as characters that have had at least one unique attribute or a homebrew type of build. In both here, and I'm sure at some point you guys have made homebrew builds in other tabletop RPGs. Let's discuss that, shall we?
He's so annoyed at me for the amount of homebrew I bring to his games.
Coin?
Yeah.
Coin's annoyed at everything. Sorry. I love Coin, but he's annoyed at everything. He's annoyed at me because of the way that my system works.
Like the amount of times we used to do D&D, and I would bring him like, oh well, how about this Power Ranger class? How about this prototype Alex Mercer class? Oh, God, how about this sorcerer? But
so what you're telling me is that I'm not even the first person. I'm not even the first victim of your strange whims.
Oh, you're not even like. And
I thought I was special.
No, he'll do this to everybody. He'll do this to anybody,
You're just one of my many flunkies. No, you're not special, Joe.
You know what's really funny as well is that actually the latest game that I'm looking forward to it going to this because it's going to be back on tomorrow. I hope do the werewolf. I genuinely just said it as a joke, and I never in a million years thought that Coin would say yes to my idea for a werewolf character,
what?
which is I play as a pug. And as a that's a werewolf pug, and I just said as I just thought I'll just make another character. He's not going to say yes, and then he just went, "No, you're doing it right." I'm like, "Really? You don't allow
I
it?"
mean, that is the moment. That is the moment that you full on harmonized resonance vibing with him, like straight up. Because the last time that I tried to get him into a campaign for me, he said, "I want to be a sentient piece of toast," and I said no. Like I just went no. Like out of everything that I say yes to, and I say yes to a lot of shit.
I mean that is incredibly. Like, I'm not going to lie. I would say no too, but I'd also like to see it. Like, I want to see him try to play a sentient piece of toast.
I tried.
I'd like to know. I would like to know the build for a sentient piece of toast.
In what system? I don't even know what system. That's the worst part. Like,
has he even played I Am Bread, where he's just like literally, it's just the whole game is just I Am Bread, and he just
struggling to even move.
Just rolls to lift like a side of his crust to roll slightly forward.
So we'll go through a few things. So you said one homebrew that you've done is a werepug.
Yep.
Sam, what about a homebrew that you've done outside of Animite Tales?
Well, remember there was one time I played a rat folk, mouse folk in D&D. It was like a homebrew race.
Oh yeah.
More or less, it was just like halflings, but with like rat aesthetic. Because I wanted to play a rat rogue who was like a prince who'd been frozen in time or something. I remember he had so much backstory back then, but then he just never got to exert it because he just for reasons, because he was dumb.
Sam, are you about Are you about to tell us that character died?
No, actually, the game just kind of quit after.
Okay. I was gonna say
he was the first character that did.
I thought you were trying to bury
the I fell into a hole and I died.
I put the knife on my own throat, and I just happened to use the bad dex roll dice.
Or not, the only characters that have died because of falling have been in your games, Joe.
Look, I mean, it's not my fault that you think that you're invincible in my games.
I'm not saying that, but no, I think he was the first character I did these and those for. So if I were to bring him in, he'd sound like a Sin 6 here to you, Alex.
Yeah.
I don't think of other homebrew that he has allowed me to play as.
I've noticed the pattern so far. A lot of them are more flavour homebrew rather than actual mechanical.
Let me use the critical role thing that's technically homebrew, the gunslinger archetype for.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Because I think it's critical role. It's either critical role or the other. I think it's critical. Yeah. We've used a couple of theirs. We've used a couple of theirs in the past. We did that. We did the ghost, like the spirit class once. He's not letting me use any of the really cool ones I wanted to do, like the Jedi one, the other many archetypes.
And yet you won't build anything like that in my system.
Yeah, well, actually, he did one person to allow me to use my own. I made up a class that he allowed me to use.
Okay.
It was more or less. It was kind of like a wizard, but instead of using intelligence, he used Constitution because he actually burned the spells into his brain. For every spell he learned, he lost HP, and to kind of use a spell, he more or less every spell he learned, he lost maximum HP. That to have a number of spell slots, he had to lose HP again. So he'd always low HP, but he had really high powered spells.
Ah, okay.
So
That's
there was
actually
like
the first
balance.
time. No, go on.
It was a very hard balancing act because all he could learn was like damaging spells. Like
That-
I don't think he could use any. I think he could use like simple weapons. I think that was it.
Okay, so don't get me wrong here, Sam. No offense, but that is the first time that I've actually heard you make a build, especially in any of the games that we've ever had you play in the last 2, nearly 3 years that you've played alongside us. That is the first build. That is the first build I've. No, let me finish. That is the first build I've ever heard you make that allows you to take damage or sacrifice health. Any time that you have a build that even hints at that, you're like, no, I can never have my health be sacrificed.
To be fair, the main point of it was that you'd always have a high con modifier. You'd always get quite a bit of health per level up. You would always lose that whenever you wanted to learn more spells. It was like a balancing act of how many spells do you want to learn, how much HP do you actually want to have. Because at first level, you've got nothing. You've got like maybe one spell you can have, because then you have to get spell slots for it.
That's fair enough. That's fair.
Like he had a lot of. I had some class features. I made it all because more importantly, D&D is kind of easier to make classes for in that regard. Because they have a very simple, like, 20 levels, and you can kind of copy, you can kind of figure out things from other classes to kind of single it out. It wasn't too difficult to make.
Fair enough.
It was a fun week. It was a fun week character.
Personally, the closest thing I've ever done, it's not really that much homebrew, because it's literally all the mechanics were still there. It's just the type of character I was playing, which was we were playing a Monty Python game. Of 5th edition, and I was playing a druid, and I was playing as I can't remember his name. I can't remember, but either way, I was just playing as druid, but I wasn't playing as necessarily a homebrew, but it was it was a homebrew campaign setting, which was quite interesting. So again, like that's the only homebrew I've ever been a part of. The thing with the homebrew, obviously in Animite Tales, the thing with the homebrew system that we're going for here is that, like, obviously the ability creation system, it pretty much allows for complete and total homebrew possibility for what kind of abilities or techniques that you want to make for yourself or your for your character or characters. Now, I know that both of you have played as a homebrew character, at least one each.
Yeah, I think 2. I think my total has been. I think my total's been 2. I think the ones that I can remember, well, the ones that I cared about anyway. So,
who are your 2? I know Lilith is 1.
Oh no, 3 then, because Lilith is because there's also Warhead as well, which had the unique attribute that any part of the explosions could come from my body. Because usually it's just the hands, but it could literally be any. That, like, my unique attribute was that it could literally be just any part of my body.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And
I completely forgot about that.
And then of course there's Toxie, aka Toxic Person, who was a Gemini anomaly, but one of the mutations was, instead of like generating corrosive acids, I could control corrosive substances. Like with the flip side of the power, which is manipulating poison, so I could just like shoot them out, do whatever I want with them, but just on acids and stuff, which opened a lot of possibilities, including the special, vomiting technique that I had on
Yes.
Toxie.
Ripping out people's poisonous abilities as well. Like if they had corrosive or poison abilities, you could rip it out of their bodies, and like temporarily they wouldn't be able to use the corrosive or poison-based abilities. But also, if they had a stockpile, you could make them vomit, and their stockpile of energy would just be removed. If they're a rage empowerment, kinetic empowerment, solar empowerment, energy empowerment, absorption empowerment, anything that they can absorb a certain amount of energy, build it up as a power, and then use it. It's like, yeah, okay, that stockpile is now completely gone. Or at least the energy force that you can, take from it is gone.
Cannot wait to use that on Felix if they ever get in contact.
I doubt it, but you know what? That'd be
one
interesting.
of these days, one of these days, if I just go up that, you're finally the one that defeats Phileas Sol, like just going, have you ever seen a phoenix vomit?
I think what was funny was that like we were talking about this a while back, and it's like, yeah, you can definitely make him throw up.
Yeah.
Or at least there's a chance that you can make him throw up, because obviously he's got super constitution. But then you've got the other issue of, after you've done that, then what?
Yeah.
Because he can
it's just,
regenerate and still shoot a whole hell of a lot of fire.
I think, my plan is just to do that and then run.
Run
I did my job. And the thing about that was one of the downsides that you can pretty much only do it once. In the fight,
on each person.
Basically, after you've emptied their stomach, there's just nothing there anymore. So it's like, you can't just keep spamming that ability. It's kind of like a, you gotta do it. It's kind of, to do it quickly, and in a creative way, in order to really down opponents. Like the time with the guys in the power armor, just making them throw up in their helmets. And it's just like they're just having a bad time all the time, and just it's all filled up, and they're like, oh god, I can't take it off, it's in my eyes. I think one of my proudest moments with
my actual
tribute.
My actual choice for homebrew for yours was actually going to be Toxie or Lilith. I completely forgot about Warhead, to be honest. But absolutely.
Actually, good for Lilith though, because I'm quite proud of Lilith as well, and I think that you do a better job of explaining Lilith than I do, because she's so complicated.
Well, the ability pretty much usually allows the opponent, usually allows the user of the power, known as effigy animation, to be able to control statues or effigies of objects, creatures, whatever. So if you find a statue or even an action figure, it can now come to life and it will now do things for you upon your commands. Lilith's ability is a little different. Lilith can find statues, create statues, or even make little dolls or whatever, and turn them into actual creatures. The size of the creature is random based on how good the roll is, but also it takes maximum HP from the user of said power, aka Lilith. The maximum health is gone until that particular effigy, or say for instance that particular monster now, is gone. Say for instance if it was a statue made of stone, it would now turn into a fleshy monster, but it would now have skin as durable as stone. But eventually, when it is either dissipated via Lilith just basically having enough with it, or once it is killed, Lilith now has larger amount of maximum health that she has access to.
Yeah, and one of the best things that's happened, the best/worst things that's happened, is that I've actually created a person, in a sense, and everyone freaking loves this person, and yeah, I don't know. It's cute in a way because they also got other abilities as well to add on to that. Like I can give them wings. I can give them, even more. I can actually one of the ones that Bill allowed me was that it was getting to be kind of a problem because I kept getting really good rolls for some reason. They always ended up being like ridiculously huge creatures, like even out of tiny little effigies. So he gave me this ability called cell division, where I can just basically roll and divide huge creatures into small little creatures. Just think like a reverse of what was it? You know the aliens in Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure. Where they fuse into one giant alien. It's like that, but I just like the opposite, where I just take them apart into smaller versions of the same one. And
I
like
didn't
now I've
actually
got
know
even
you
more.
had that, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did it in one of the things. Like I did, there was just Big Bear that I created, which he was a humongous monster, and I did cell division, and I divided it into free bears. Free bears. But you're much easier to manage. Then I went in and killed one of the free bears. And I've still got two of them still alive.
You monster.
I want that maximum health. I know you gave me such grief for that, but it's like it's not like it's not like a it's my maximum health. It's just gonna like get stuck in the catacombs anyway and die a horrible thing. In fact, I gave it a better death.
It's not like it's not as if it's an actual person. It's just a living, breathing creature that
exactly which
we'll
can
get
cry
to you
and
in
have
a second,
feelings.
Sam. Speaking of which, actually, Sam, you've had a couple of unique attribute characters and even characters with homebrew abilities, and I think maybe a homebrew item. I'm not sure.
I know I made a homebrew character that we never used and probably will never use now.
Really?
I'm thinking through the vampire character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was entirely homebrewed.
Yeah, entirely homebrewed. Your own like homebrew take on vampirism and stuff like that. My first remembrance of a homebrew character, there are two actually. First ever character you ever played as, which is a professor who was a void child, so she can generate and manipulate dark energy. But actually, she was in a very small child's body because the original person, who was a scientist, she had telepathy, and she was able to transfer her mind and her consciousness into the void child's body. This girl who had void manipulation, void energy, and stuff like that. So you had this power, but even crazier is that like you had this crown or this little head dressing that you could put on other people and then control them through the powers of your mind, or you could you could have tactile telepathy, where if you touch someone, you could then mind control them through that means. But on top of that, you still had generation of darkness and super strength, which was crazy. And it only got crazy from there because you also then had Zinzarina.
I don't think she was. She wasn't.
She was.
I think her only unique attribute was, instead of lightness, it was darkness.
Exactly.
No,
that's still a unique attribute. Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
Because it flips it over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Which I did quite like that though. Although she didn't really get like her due and stuff, but that was kind of neat.
Again, having it that like you get powered up by being in total darkness, and you can store up energy from the darkness and eventually use that to buff yourself and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. Also being like, no, go on.
She was less goth than she sounds.
Yes, yeah.
What's cool as well is that, like an actual spider, she could just like hide in a cupboard, like in the corner somewhere, and get more powerful, like real spiders, and then jump out at you.
Yep.
Fair enough. Like it's just fair enough. Other than that, I'm not sure if you've actually played as Veil.
Wait, you're forgetting the Veil.
Yeah, of course, the Veil. Another void child creation. What is it? Was it like a guy in his 30s who had the ability to literally become darkness? Like he was a basically dark matter mimic.
Yeah. Because at the time, and I still can't remember, I was very into the shadow, as you well know. And I thought, how about if we make his powers actually good, as opposed to just becoming invisible slightly?
So you had it that you could teleport through darkness and also become a literal living shadow.
Yeah. He was evil. Semi. I mean, the Veil is semi-evil. More just greedy and just wanting money.
I mean,
They did really...
some would consider that evil.
Yeah, but so is literally every billionaire.
Well, I mean, you made some connections that, there we go.
They are evil.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never shown a millionaire or billionaire who's evil. For those of you who are wondering, definitely check out the Tawny campaign, as we're currently playing through that. That's a great campaign. Definitely no evil billionaires there. Anyway, back to the episode. I don't know. Like you've had quite a few good runs with a lot of these homebrew characters, except Vale. Okay, no, except no. Actually, no. Okay, I'm going to swap this round. You've had a very good character, Zinzarina, because the other two, they were very good characters, but both of them ended up in the same situation. One ended up getting defeated and eventually swallowed up into another person's pocket dimension and eventually was incarcerated. And Vale was incarcerated into his own pocket dimension via his own ignorance to the situation.
He was kept in the dark as such. And how he'll be kept in the dark forever.
I've just realised the three characters that you've had that had unique attributes have all been to do with darkness. Theming here, Sam?
Don't forget as well that, at the very least, the professor did ride a giant dragon made of darkness onto... I can't remember what city it was, but I remember being amazing.
It was actually really amazing. It was really cool.
Yeah.
However, there is one character that it has got a homebrew ability that you haven't yet mentioned.
Who's that?
I wonder if you can guess it or Alex can guess it.
I'm going to say Thingy. What's her face?
Thingy.
What, the ABC.
ABC. Adrian. Yeah, there we go.
If you're going to say Adrian, not really. All she has is like a unique attribute now.
That makes that. Yep, that still counts.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
absolutely. That's
that is.
Yeah, you literally said to me, "Hey, can I just have a resistance to fire?" You power gaming little jammy so and so. And that's still homebrew. That is still absolutely homebrew. You added something that was not originally there to the original power. That's what a unique attribute is. Yeah, like the fact that you have a wasp that now takes a little bit more lightning damage, but now has a resistance to fire of such a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, great.
I absolutely love homebrew because obviously creating new things is always interesting.
Is it on a low level thing? I've also done homebrew as DM.
It's not just as characters, as the world, and the mechanics you create for it.
Yeah.
Because on the side, I've been GMing a game for Alex and Kane.
Yeah, it's the God game.
It's a game where more or less they go back in time to the point before powers, about 1,000 years ago, and are treated as gods. And because I only know so much about the lore of Joe's game, I've kind of made my own world with like Roman equivalents called Kumans and Attila the Hun equivalents called the Berserkers. Then just... I don't think I've even given a name to the third faction which you're in now.
Like the Nubarians or whatever.
I don't think I even bother that. And I've made a character that is an ongoer, which is like more or less dwarves from Skyrim, I think, is what they're meant to be.
Not really. Their disappearance is a mystery, like the dwarves in Skyrim, but
they've got super tech.
They're not really dwarves like from Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean they voluntarily left, as far as I'm. Well, in your game, it's never really clear, but like we get the indication that in Sam's game that that for some reason that they saw something bad coming and they decided to go, nope.
So in the actual official lore, nobody actually knows why they left.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's kept open to that is because if people want to make their own homebrew worlds as close to the original canon as possible, it is possible to make up their own timelines, their own universes, their own versions of the things as close to it as possible. Or obviously they can literally just use these mechanics and make up their own homebrew universes.
Which is what Sam has done.
Absolutely.
Basically. Yeah.
And I always look forward to seeing exactly what you guys have done by just asking Sam.
Oh, I completely forgot. I also made a completely new system as well called the God Powers.
Oh yeah,
yes,
Which
yeah.
I keep forgetting about. We get free stuff because we're gods.
Mostly because I always like the idea of faith bestowing power. That if a number of people believe in something, it's like a number of people believe in a person, you will gain powers from it. You know what? Mystical settings, I quite like the idea of that. So I've given them the more people believe in them to be gods, the more powers they get. So at the moment they only have like so many followers. They get kind of low level god powers. The higher up, the more people they believe, even them, the more powers they will get.
This is very similar to a couple of different mechanics that we sort of always talk about, which is the apostle system, which is based on the user's willpower in a similar way, but it's actually one's willpower instead of willpower of them and themselves, belief in themselves, an extension of their own spirit and essence of strength of their soul. It's actually the strength of their faith, and that's more like one person. Whereas what you've gone and done is you've made a whole mechanic based on the actual story. And it's very similar to a few other different campaigns that we've done before, like modules that will be coming out for this game that you'll be able to check out on the website. One of which is the superhero system, where you'll get fame and infamy depending on if you're playing as a hero or a villain. And so you'll actually get special charisma opportunities, but also each will come with their own significant ups and downsides, their own drawbacks and special occasions that will help you in advantageous situations. But I honestly, when you sent this to me, I think it was funny. You sent this to me, and you were like, "Is this okay?" I was like, "Dude, this is your campaign. Go for it." But I was like, "Also, yes, I love it. I really, really liked it."
I don't know. That sounds really cute as a DM as well. It's just so because he's obviously just so excited, but also do you like it? Do you like it? I really like. Do you like it? And I was like, yes, we like it. It's really nice.
That's just any new DM. I think that's just any new DM.
I'll never forget as well, because there's one thing, I won't say what it is, but Sam knows what it is, but Sam was just like, do you want me to tell you the answer to that question? I'm like, no, that's literally a huge plot point. Don't spoil it on me. No, don't tell me that. And it's like, well, it's real good, though. And I was like, no.
Just constantly seeking validation. What I am now.
I think this is also a shame as to why, because you guys, obviously you don't stream it, which I think is both fair enough, but also it's a bit of a shame because then I can't see them looking back and go, oh, okay. Or even you guys.
I kind of wish we did sometimes as well, because some of the stuff we do. The thing is, most of what we do is just get into misunderstandings with people. That's just most of the thing. I mean, literally, I never thought this would happen, but my character, who only had one SPMA as their entire skill list, is now becoming a very annoyingly devoted apostle of the Great One. Just really sort of just leading into religion and stuff, and it's becoming this whole thing. It's just very, very funny.
No, don't forget the best part as well is that the other character, Zeke, played by Kane, is an atheist, I think.
Yeah, it just doesn't believe me.
It's all these miracles are happening. Like I mentioned, last time Alex's character was fixing the ground, and then the clouds parted as they were talking about the Great One, and a ray of light shone down at them. And then Zeke was looking away when this was happening. It's I didn't see that.
Look at this right now. And the thing is, I think I said something that was sort of just sort of displaying my greed, and the clouds literally just passed away. It never to be shining on me again. And I think Kane had said it best. Yeah, that's weather, what happened to you was weather. It's like, you see, all this stuff. This is what I kind of like about the Sam's homebrew is that all the apostle stuff. It's like it's genuinely not clear whether it is just coincidence or my character, being sort of drug-addled and silly, because that's another thing that was in their past as well, or if it genuinely is a miracle. I mean, there are some things where it's like genuinely that, but even then, Zeke wouldn't believe it. So it's just like, no, literally, this could happen to anyone. Like, it only happened in a flash.
Literally, at one point, all the candles in the castle did go from orange to green, and he was like, must be that rogue pyromancer from the future who came back with us.
It's like, sure.
And that's the homebrew setting I've made, where the gods are somewhat petty that way.
That is probably one of my favourite things about the way that you can build it. Because obviously in the current one that we've got, we don't really truly know too much about the gods at the moment because we don't really talk about them. But right at the end of the villain campaign, we literally had a character talk about the goddess of luck and then just dip. Legitimately disappear, okay, well, where shall we go now, my lady luck? And then he just vanished from existence. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks for pretty much spoiling a campaign 2 campaigns down the line.
No, I was just internally, I was silent on there, but outside I was like, that's just like, oh my god, they're talking about the things that I already know from when we talk about luck children.
It's like I kind of always assume if you have apostle trade specifically, God kind of knows about you. So if you're talking smack about them, talking good about them, it's kind of they're probably going to be somewhat paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Depending on how high your apostle trade is, of course.
My personal favourite sort of stuff that people try to build a lot of the time with with this is that they try and use the system to build a legitimate character build. And it's like, okay, so I'm basically gonna make Goku from Dragon Ball Z. But obviously their backstory and their personality is gonna be different. No, sorry, not their personality. Sorry. Their backstory and their history and the universe that they're in is completely different. But their personality is pretty much the same. Lovable, don't really know too much about where they come from, but really enjoys martial arts. And is really strong and has no idea why they have these weird abilities and special powers. Someone said to me that they wanted to make actually it was Alfie who said he wanted to make Virgil from Devil May Cry, and thus began the adventures of Legion, who was a time child.
Like Legion though.
Exactly. Legion is great. Legion is amazing. And
original character, do not steal.
I mean, yeah, because Virgil's a dick.
Well, that's exactly it. He wanted a few things from Virgil, but he wanted to make the character his own. Which is, again, it worked out very well. Bill, playing as Phileas Sol, he wanted to make a character that was a slightly better, as he claimed, a slightly better version of Escanor. So he built a character that was powered by the sun and other light, and then had the powers of regeneration and resurrection. So he made Phoenix and photonic empowerment. So he got more powerful whilst he was around light. He could absorb light, make himself big, bulky, ridiculously strong and durable. And then he had powers of the Phoenix, and he could make himself half Phoenix Man. So he had wings sprouting out his back and talons on his fingers and stuff like that. He could summon and manipulate flames, and he could also turn, imbue it with energy so it can, turn into a similar thing, mimicking the sun. It was really cool. And all of his weapon of choice was always an axe, because the only weapon Escanor is ever seen using in his Grand Sun mode is either his hands or an axe. So it was just a really interesting sort of aesthetic. And I love that.
I do love his axes as well. I want to shout out to Phileas's amazing axes.
First axe being Sunshine, which is a literal direct reference to Escanor, because that is the name of Escanor's a magical power. It is called Sunshine.
Say hello, sunshine.
The other accent. Do you remember any of the names?
That was excellent, and
it was acceptable because it was okay, but he needed another weapon. And then later on, it got like imbued with this power that was like, this could theoretically kill you. It's unstable, but it's way more powerful than it ever was before. He went, I shall rename you Exceptional.
That
was the axe he killed Ten with. That is the axe that he killed Ten Cadeau Aflado with. That was just amazing.
Beautiful.
The other one is New Dawn, which was the one that he got on his in-game and also out-of-game character birthday, which was great. And then
I love his in-game reaction to it. It's just like, it's perfect. It's the best birthday ever.
There was also one last one which was great, but I don't think it can't exist anymore now. But way back when we first played the system, back when it was like in its very early alpha stages, that we had a material called leech steel and jamming steel, and it was quite literally a metal that dampened and even nullified powers. Now, obviously, we don't really have that anymore. But he had an axe called Sundown. So it was like, I will use Sundown for this, and then he just cut someone, and then suddenly their powers stopped working temporarily. Or even embedded the axe into them. It was like, you're welcome to try. But yeah, it was a very fascinating character. The one that we never got to see, which honestly is the biggest crying shame, is he at one point got his hands on a chemistry manipulation stone, and it had atmospheric manipulation, so it could change the weather, and he called it the Climatax.
Oy.
Bad.
Yeah, not the best work, but I still love it. So even with the system allowing this, like, you can legitimately make this build without even really trying that hard. But to a certain degree, it was a very interesting thing, because even though that it fit well in the universe, it was almost like a homebrew Escanor. It was like the Mum, can we have Escanor? We have Escanor at home, the Escanor that we have at home. Only somehow it was just slightly better. I absolutely adored that character. It's still one of the funniest ones.
Oh, and look what Sam's just freaking posted.
What have you posted this time? In the greenhouse axe.
It's like gas.
Gax.
Nice gas.
Oh, greenhouse gax. Okay.
It's better than Climatax.
Move it along.
Better than Climatax.
But my question is, at the moment, do either of you currently have anything in the works for any future games, potentially for this system, or maybe other systems?
You know full well what it is. I'm going to be the freaking Avatar, baby.
Oh, you've actually planned on doing
I've
it.
Decided. I know. Yeah, officially. You know what? I can't pass it up. You're right. I was humming and hawing a lot, but I'm like, no, this is the only time that it would be right to play the Avatar, especially when you say that it's going to be quite low level. I could do sort of like a whole hero's journey thing. It's like, I can't do it. It's the same with like Felicity as well. It's like, I can't pass up the opportunity for this character. It's too good, and it's like, I want to be a homebrew Avatar. How else am I going to do that?
I'm really glad about that. That is actually made me super hyped for Huskonian University. What about you, Sam?
I mean, I'm gonna play the Incredible Hulk with downsides included.
Hey, nice. So, full on rage out. That, again, an interesting unique attribute, because this is the first unique attribute that you've brought to me that actually genuinely seems to be like, oh my gosh, this is actually genuine downsides, because this is a really powerful build you're bringing to me, but it's also a very terrifying build for the rest of the players. But it also builds some incredible character moments. Like, this could be really cool in universe. Like, again, like, what is the coolest thing about Bruce Banner as a hero? Well, the biggest and coolest one is he does not let the Hulk's rage define him as the type of hero he wants to be. He does not let that thing. He's always terrified that he is going to hurt someone, but ultimately, if he is ever asked to help someone, he will be there and attempt to get or coax the Hulk into. It's just so interesting. I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
If you want, I can tell you my favorite quote about the Hulk.
Go for it.
Probably from the TV show. Is the Hulk will not kill because Bruce Banner will not kill. He may like smash him. He might throw people around, but he will not kill. So that might be the thing. He might throw people about. He might hurt people.
Bruce will just like come and just say, "No, Hulk, no."
No, it's not that. It's that like it's more as he has the very basic moral compass of the person that he's like taking over. But it's like, he'll still probably put you into the dust. He still break some bones, but he will probably try not to kill you.
Although,
unless you continue to get in his way.
Is this Hulk going to be the same way? I guess we'll have to find out.
Well, yeah. Well, probably have to make it like a willpower roll or something, so he doesn't just flatten people, or he does like
just burst them into paste.
See, that would no, let it happen, because that would be the funniest TPK ever. That would be so great.
Don't worry. I'm deliberately making a character that like we're gonna actually have to make like, I guess like, is it going to be an SPMA or a willpower technique to lower rage? So I don't actually Hulk out. Making a character that's deliberately trying to nerf his powers, trying to deliberately not activate his powers.
Is that going to be like a? Actually, no. I probably won't ask that. I was gonna ask a question, but I don't think I should ask that question.
I mean, considering this is like maybe like 2 years down the line.
No, fair enough. No, I was.
That's how I might have thought of another character.
Fair enough. I was going to ask more about, is that going to be like a thing where it's like permanently he's always going to want to nerf him, or will he want to eventually have that crossroad where it's like, here's the side where you can definitely nerf it. Here's the side where you can definitely nerf it and control it. Here's the side where it's like, you want to try and let it completely loose, but so that it understands the main thing that you don't want it to do. So it's like, look, you take control, you do whatever you have to do, just don't kill people, or whatever it is.
I said I'm probably going to get probably going to get an SPM, like the highest level SPMA thing as like a crossroads mark, like at half rage, instead of becoming just the insane savage and creature. It's going to be a kind of like Grey Hulk creature that has like half strength, but is more evil, so to speak, or at least more self-interested, is less damaging. More like the worst character traits, like vice powered, but not, but like not immediately destructive to the environment. If you piss him off, you go straight. Like if you like max rage him, just that's when he transforms into the savage version.
Okay. I mean,
so like there will be.
It's funny because I think a lot of people are going unique attributes, which actually means that like so far we've got Kane who's saying about his unique attribute, which check out the last episode of Homebrew and unique attributes for that one. You're saying about your avatar build for your unique attribute, Alex, and obviously you're talking about your Bruce Banner unique attribute for your character. I think this is going to be interesting. I am still on the fence at the moment as to whether or not people will be, people will just, it's their choice whether or not they get an attribute or whether or not it will be forced upon them. The main reason for this
That's
is...
interesting. I'm intrigued about forced upon them, actually. That would be...
Well, you guys have already made yours, so that means that the rest of them would actually have that difficulty. Although, then again, Juice has also said one. Again, check out the previous episode if you want to know what Juice might be planning for his next character in either the Revealing campaign, or if he does stay on for the HUH campaign, what that might entail. But again, he might also, or they might also be choosing to, build a character with that particular, kind of concept, where it's like, they have a unique attribute on a specific set of powers. The only ones that we have not fully confirmed on who is going to do what or when is whether or not Build is going to go for a unique attribute. And also whether or not he's going to go for a unique attribute in the Revealing or in the HOH campaign. Obviously, those are quite a ways away, so either way, it doesn't really matter. However, Connor is sticking to his guns for his next campaign character, which is a sentient axe.
Cannot wait! I cannot wait for this! I heard about this, and I'm like, yeah. It all comes full circle, because, we've got Phileas with his axes, and now we have an actual sentient axe.
Axe
I
with
would
all
be
his Phileases.
Yeah, it's just like, he wields a Phileas. That would be so funny if he wields Phileas, just pops, just holds him, and starts throwing him about. I want to be best friends with my axe friend. I really do. I'm just like, that is amazing. That sounds like such a unique and odd concept as well. It's like melee weapon physiology, but you can't change back at all. It's like you are a soul trapped in an object, essentially.
I think his origin is that it was an axe was forged, and then he was created, like a soul was basically created and then infused into the weapon via the Angel of Souls. So it's kind of like he's like obviously artificially created, but it's that thing of like it was infused by the goddess of souls. So it's kind of interesting because that means that the actual weapon actually has a living soul inside of it. But it was, instead of it being trapped, it actually was created to be put inside of it. So it's just fascinating. It's just very interesting.
Oh, I'm just gonna be trying to be best friends with this axe. Like, you are a good character concept. I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna just put you in my inventory.
I think another one. I guess I'll state the last thing that we should probably talk about is obviously the session. We'll probably get into this in the next week or so anyway, but the session happened. Some things became some things. How are you feeling so far about what's gone down in the sessions so far? I know, Sam, you weren't there, but you said that you saw the episode?
Yes, I did. And I'm annoyed I didn't get XP for fixing that guy up.
Yeah, well,
I was in control.
Yeah,
you did not make that choice.
Yeah. I must say you were worried that you weren't being character, but I think like for where Adrian is at mentally now, I think that was perfectly within character. So I don't know if Sam agrees with me or not, but I thought, that's
to be fair, I was more or less happy with what you did of just being kind of quiet in the background and making daggers for people when they ask me to. Just I build.
Yeah,
I'm the builder now.
I mean, to flip it on it.
That's the one thing. Is that I think it would just be I don't think it would be I'm a builder now. It's just I am a builder.
Yeah.
That implies there was a point when I wasn't a builder.
Because they were more like a knight builder, or a builder who was also a knight, but now they're just like, no, I am just, and have always been a builder, but I now need to focus on being just exactly what I am. A builder, a constructor, a fixer, and a blacksmith.
We're putting on this facade, this incorrectness of what I wanted to be.
Look, I shouldn't multi-class. I need to min-max this shit.
See, you know what? I will kill you if you start using that terminology, though. Say, "Oh, I'm going to min-max this build." You deserve to die, you nerd.
Just the bullying, like face slap, like.
You just that's how we kill Adrian. We just stuff her in a locker.
Just swirly.
Nerd.
Oh dear! How the turntables, eh?
Yeah, I mean, well, it will be interesting to see these feud. I think it's a good thing to leave us on fun for a bit, because it's like, okay, we've done some interesting stuff with this guy, in a way that it is advantageous to us, because there was no long-term consequences for that fight, because we got fixed instantly because of the pocket dimension, which was convenient. There was no chance of us dying in there, which is good. But yeah, it was really, it was kind of interesting, and what I'm more interested in, though, because I've still got I'm still thinking and stuff. The weirdest thing about that I found most interesting about that session is how you got Rakia to reveal the bullets in her bag, and then just having this moment of giving the bullets to Cloak as a present that he actually wants. Just like, oh well, yeah.
We've learned two big things from that, though. We've also learned that Cloak actually used the term "friend" when describing when describing Rakia, and also we also got to see a bit of the true face of both Zachariah and the true face of Fletcher, because Zachariah he's not going to seek out a fight with any of the four, because he's just like, no, I'm being realistic. But at the same time, it's like, you're really going to be that dishonorable, that dirty, that you make a deal to take the points from this Guardian if this other person wins. And it's like, he's just disgusted. He's absolutely disgusted. So obviously we sort of get to see that the kind of person he is. But then immediately smacking back with a different thing, Fletcher, straight up, just oh, I'm enjoying this, bring me more, and then him accidentally breaking out of the pocket dimension, and then realizing that he can get back in, and that he can actually figure a way to still use his powers well enough within that dimension. And it's just, so it turns out he can pass through pocket dimensions now.
Yeah, that was such an interesting way of finding that out as well, because I forgot about that power too, and it was just so well, for a minute there, I thought, oh, he's out, is he? Oh, he was like, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is part of intangibility, isn't it? Oh, bye, Fletcher, but then he comes in and then does the most anime cool move ever to bounce himself between realities. And oh my god, yeah, he really was, MVP that whole fight. It was just it's so weird, because it's we didn't expect it to be, but it's definitely a Fletcher episode.
I don't think so. I'd actually have to disagree. I think it was more of a Cloak episode. That episode.
Yeah.
Because you say he was an MVP, but the amount of stuff that he did, the sheer amount of stuff that he did. Creating a whole area of just dead powers, nobody could activate their abilities, nobody could use their abilities. Just completely nerfed almost in 2/3 of what an RK could do. He didn't have any super strength, he didn't have any energy manipulation. He could only just imbue his fist with some extra willpower and hope that he could do enough damage. And Cloak then after that pulled out a gun, of all things, a gun.
Yeah, that's the thing, we got to find out.
Without super stats, by the way, shot this dragon.
Well, that's the thing that I like, because it just I didn't even plan on giving him the bullets or anything. That just sort of happened, and then immediately after, almost as if it was planned as a character moment. It's yeah, we'll just shoot this dragon with this magical gun that has mysterious effects. And now we know what that does, and it's oh,
well,
shit,
we know about 4 out of 7 possibilities that this gun has for us.
And that was
that's on
really
a dial
cool.
of 6, so I'll let you figure out that for your own self. But yeah, I do think there was more of a Cloak episode because like we don't even know what he's planning, but yet he was to be honest the MVP of that. As
I mean,
cool,
he is pretty much.
This was
he is
the
leader.
episode where everyone got to show off. This was the show off episode. Don't get me wrong, because I don't think that Fletcher pulling that attack off made him MVP. Because then, if that's the case, then we need to talk about how Rakia was able to like land some really decent freaking hits, and also even get commendation from the dragon himself, and actually says, "You don't even have willpower in that strike," and that I actually felt that. And that is incredible commendation from him, considering that he says it as if he expected you to not even be able to break through his skin, let alone cut him twice and slap him so hard that he actually felt it through all of those layers of damage resistances and special buffs. You then have, like, obviously, like Fletcher pulling off that incredible, weird reality spike ability, and then obviously, like, all of the crazy stuff that Cloak pulls off. Like, I want to point out everyone being in this entire dome of dispel and nullification for 4 minutes, and it's just wrecking this guy. Like, he couldn't generate fire, he couldn't manipulate it around him, he couldn't do anything. He was just, yeah, fair enough, he was still a big dragon with super strength, but like a good third or at least 2/4, well, a half of his powers were gone. Like half of his entire combat style was practically out the window. So I wouldn't say that Fletcher was the MVP. I would say that it was definitely a more Cloak orientated episode. He was definitely MVP in that particular situation because of the things that he did. But I would also say that none of them got off light in the terms of them showing off how far they've come and how much they've grown in the last 22 episodes. And it was an amazing thing to see that, like, these guys are able to go against this incredibly powerful being who can break through the very essence of a lot of the concepts of nullification. And yet he still had things that he couldn't do, but he was still able to fight you guys in his giant ass dragon mode. And practically to a standstill, but even more amazingly, none of you got one shot. In fact, I think he hit all of you at least 1 to 3 times.
Yeah, I think I got hit twice actually. By him, yeah.
You were okay. Like most of you still had enough health to be able to take another one. And RK got hit about 3 or 4 times. It was just amazing. It was just incredible, like the stuff that happened. That you guys were able to pull off, and I look forward to seeing what happens next. Now that you are going with the Seria clan, because Kozuki has seen you and measured you up as decent fighters, decent people, decent warriors, and he's now going to take you on to the Seria clan to discuss espionage within the southern region, and even potentially help you get there for the sake of potentially being spies or potentially being saboteurs. Who knows? But yeah, that's both interesting, but it's also very interesting in the regard of like how far you guys have come, and yet you're still red bands. Like
we're working on it.
Yeah, sure.
I spent a lot of points on the new arm. Okay, like I could have been a blue band right now. But
okay, yeah, fair enough. I'd say if we were to talk about an MVP, I'd say that we'd have to talk about an RK, because if it weren't for the fact that he had that pocket dimension, the Phantom Gate, the ability that Animon children have, where it resets you to, after a certain amount of time, it resets you back to the exact point that you brought yourself in to the pocket dimension. And the fact that gave you the opportunity to be able to go a few rounds with this guy at all, because let's be honest, if you got to that point, how many of you could have survived continuing that fight for another 5 rounds? It's scary to think. Because you were doing some great stuff, but out of his 1,000 health, you did 210.
Yeah. Just a little more. Little more.
Hey, I didn't hear no bell.
Oh, you know.
I'm still standing. I can always do more.
I mean, if
I
only
was
they
going to say
had...
I could do this. I was going to say I could do this all day.
I mean, they clearly couldn't, but yeah. No, they did well. They did really well. I really
And
enjoyed
more is
that.
yet to come.
Absolutely,
Because we're
more
going
is
to
yet
have
to
some
come.
interesting, we got some interesting episodes planned up where we'll be focusing on Felix
Mm.
and playing some new characters, not our old ones, but like because unfortunately the party has been separated,
For now.
and we're going to focus for now, and we're going to focus on Felix for a little bit and adventures within the Orochi clan.
We'll be flipping back and forth, and depending on whether or not it's going to be a larger thing, that's then when we'll make the decision if the rest of the party is going to go on to doing that. But as I said, we're not too sure yet, so I'm gonna do it where you and Connor, you're going to be playing other characters temporarily, just to either fight or to train or to just do whatever, and then we'll see where it comes up to by the end of that episode. But obviously, we'll be going back and forth to the other characters as well. So we'll get to see a bit more of what's going on with Adrian, Adriana, Zachariah, Cloak, Fletcher, obviously Rakia, maybe Anarche. I know that Kane said he might not be able to make it for the next session, but either way, we've got some interesting stuff to go through, and also obviously we need to know what is going on with Cloak, since he seems to be perfect at lying right now. But obviously all of that will come. And we'll get to see exactly what goes on from there in next Sunday's session. The only thing I will say is thank you for both of you for joining this episode. It's been quite lively today. I'd like to believe.
Oh yeah.
Oh
pew
yeah. Pew pew. The other thing I was. The other thing I was going to say was obviously one of the things that we see a lot in homebrew in our system is not just the unique attributes, it's just pretty much any type of trade or proficiency perk and technique that you can create yourself. All of the types of abilities have their own guidelines and different ways that you can make them, but you still get to make your very own. You get, build your own abilities, make your own new types of skills, or perfect the kind of technique that you wanted. Maybe make an advanced type of technique where you can put things together and concrete them into an even greater ultimate technique the world has ever seen. Maybe make some core improvements, make them a little bit better, or even a strenuous form that will make you powerful for a short amount of time. Regardless of which, there is one question on the board. How the heck did Rakia and Fletcher not get affected by nullification? I guess we'll find that out at some point. Thank you very much for everyone for listening. Definitely tune in to the Animite Tales. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much. And as always, have a wonderful night.
What?
See you in the future.
I guess we will. Ciao, ciao. For now.